Wait.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. We seek the protection of God from Shaitan, who has been expelled from God's kingdom of special grace and mercy because of his arrogance and his defiance. If we avoid the satanic habit of arrogance, whatever we know to be true by the guidance of the God-given intellect, the divine revelation, and the human conscience, we submit. And if we avoid the satanic habit of defiance, whatever we know to be wrong and evil and false, by the guidance of the God-given intellect, the divine revelation, and the human conscience, we don't commit. And if we have reliance on God, definitely we'll be granted the strength to be able to recognize, to identify, to understand what's satanic and what is non-satanic and divine. And we'll have the strength to be able to oppose it and to overcome it. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. We seek and pray blessings and grace and guidance from God, because He is Allah, the all-perfect being, and therefore none of us can achieve any perfection unless He grants us so. And we ask for His grace and guidance because He is Rahman. His Rahman, His mercy, His love, His care pervades and reaches out to each and everything in the universe, brings it to life, sustains it, and enables it to reach its goal of creation. And we ask for His special grace and reward and support in the dunya, in the akhirah, because He is Rahim. His extra love and care is unlimited, but it is only for those of us who deserve it by the right faith and the right deeds. And one of the best of the right deeds we can do is engage in the azaa of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا محمد وآله الطاهرين. And our salutations and greetings on all the messages, right from Adam alayhi salam till the last, but especially on the last, because he was the best, and because he was the closest to God, and therefore received the best and the final message from God. And also our greetings and salutations on his holy progeny who were the closest to him, not only biologically, but more important, spiritually. And therefore they continued his propagation of God's teachings, the final teachings. And they were ready to give up their lives to defend the godly values. Respected elders, brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. We thank Allah for this great ni'mah that we have awareness and recognition of who are the divinely chosen representatives and what is the contribution they have made in the delivery, in the protection, in the spread of this righteous message. One of our great mujtahids, he comments, if you look at all these hadith about the merit and the thawab of azaa for Imam Hussein alayhi salam, these hadith are plentiful. There's so many, there's no other ma'soom, even the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa for whom mourning and grieving and weeping is recommended, like the way it is for Imam Hussein alayhi salam. So obviously there must be a reason, he says. And the reason is we see that throughout history, Shia and the true followers of the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam have been a minority, a persecuted minority. But they managed to survive. And one of the principal reasons they managed to survive is azab. That is what identified them. That is what unified them. That is what kept them on the straight path. That is what awakened them to realize who are the true divine representatives. Through azab, they bonded with the true representatives, and they kept that spirit of understanding what is dhulm and who is zalim and what is our duty against the zalim. They kept that spirit alive through azab. And hence, the Imams of the Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam have recommended that we always should remember the tragedy of Karbala. Unfortunately, even in the time of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, there were some who failed to recognize what is the reason he was taking these steps against Yazid. And it's surprising, one of his foster brothers, Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib, had more than 30 children from different wives. One of them was Umar bin Ali ibn Abi Talib. It's interesting, after this decision is made of Imam Hussein alayhi salam to oppose Yazid and to leave Medina, this foster brother comes to meet him. Sayyid ibn Tawus in his book Luhuf reports this, that Muhammad, the son of Umar, says that I heard it from my father Umar ibn Ali ibn Abi Talib, that he was talking to my uncles, the family of Aqil ibn Abi Talib, and he was explaining to them that when my brother Hussein, my foster brother Hussein alayhi salam, refused to give bay'ah to Yazid through his governor in Medina, I went to visit him to advise him. So there was an occasion when he was all alone, and I told him, may I be ransom for you? Ya Aba Abdullah, you know, your brother, meaning Imam Hassan alayhi salam, your brother Abu Muhammad al-Hassan shared with me some secrets from his father. And he apparently told Imam Hassan, but not Umar. And Umar learned it through Imam Hassan alayhi salam. And then I started crying. I could not say what that secret was. And not only tears started flowing, but I started weeping aloud. So Imam alayhi salam consoles me and embraces me. And he tells me, what did my brother tell you? حَدَّثَكَ أَنِّي مَقْتُولٌ. He told you that I will be killed. So I said, God forbid, may Allah protect you, Ya ibn Rasulillah. So Imam alayhi salam asks him, سَأَلْتُكَ بِحَقِّ أَبِيكَ بِقَتْلِي خَبَّرَكَ. Did my brother tell you I will be killed? I'm asking you in the name of God and in the name of my father. So Umar says, yes. But then if you are going to be killed, why don't you give bay'ah? This is a foster brother. Why don't you give bay'ah? It's very important we realize what is the reason Imam alayhi salam made this movement. Sometimes members of his own family fail to recognize. But to the credit of Umar, he loved Imam Hussein alayhi salam. He loved him so much that when he suddenly realized that the situation is reaching a point where he could be killed and he goes to visit him, he breaks down, he weeps. He had the love of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, but he failed to recognize the purpose for which Imam alayhi salam was making this decision. So, Imam Hussein alayhi salam answers him. He says, حَدَّثَنِي أَبِي. My father Ali alayhi salam also gave me this report أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله أخبره بقتله وقتلي. The Prophet informed Ali that Ali would be killed and I also would be killed. وأن تربتي تكون بقرب تربتي, and my turba where I will be buried will be somewhere near where he will be buried, Karbala and Kufa. فتظن أنك علمت ما لم أعلمه. Umar, you think therefore you know more than what I know. I know exactly why I'm making this decision, and I know the consequences of this decision, and yet I will make this decision. Do you know why? We come from two different mothers. The father is the same, but the mother is different. The mother of Umar ibn Ali ibn Abi Talib is a lady by the name of Habib, Sahba al-Tha'labi al-Taghlibi. The mother of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. He says, إِنَّهُ لَا أُعْطِي الدَّنِيَّةَ مِن نَفْسِي أَبَدًا. I will never ever perform this ignoble, disgraceful act of bowing down and surrendering to somebody who is openly evil. It's against my nobility. It's against the very spirit and the blood that flows in my veins, the blood that I have inherited from the milk of my mother. He says, وَلَتَلْقَيَنَّ فَاطِمَةُ أَبَاهَا شَاكِيَةً مَا لَقِيَتْ ذُرِّيَّتُهَا مِنْ أُمَّتِهِ. And Fatima will meet her father, and she will complain to her father, the Prophet, because of what her ummah did to her progeny. وَلَا يَدْخُلُ الْجَنَّةَ أَحَدٌ آذَاهَا فِي ذُرِّيَّتِهَا. This daughter of the Prophet is a daughter of divine purity. This ayah of Tathir was revealed in the house of the Holy Lady. And the central figure in the Hadith of Kisa is the Holy Lady. And the central message of the Hadith of Kisa is the purity of the lady. And the purity is that she never ever allows impurity to come and rule over the house. One, over the family. Two, over the society. Three, her sons will never bow down to impurity and to evil. And therefore, it's important for us to understand that Imam alayhi salam had to clarify not only to the general public and for future history, but even to his own family members. Why is it that he's deciding to oppose Yazid? And hence there are a series of messages, private one-to-one talks that he makes with several prominent companions, public speeches that he makes in Makkah, on his way from Makkah to Karbala, in Karbala. And there's something written down also that he leaves behind, which is a recorded, documented statement and declaration of the purpose of his movement, and that's very important. Nobody should dare later on to try to misinterpret why he decided to oppose Yazid. And this is the declaration through the Wasiyyah. Muhammad ibn Hanafiya, his other foster brother, he also comes to visit Imam alayhi salam before his departure from Medina. Ibn Hanafiya also offers his advice, but we'll discuss that later. Imam alayhi salam trusts him and deposits with him his Wasiyyah. And Wasiyyah generally, of course, it's recommended for everyone, especially when we are beginning to undertake an important journey, mustahab, to make Wasiyyah. Under certain circumstances, Wasiyyah becomes even wajib. So, God forbid somebody has got something qaza prayers, psalm, khums, wajib financial obligations. There's something entrusted to him, deposits that have to be paid back to lenders. This is wajib. It has to be recorded and it has to be done through the wasiyyah. Sometimes wasiyyah is mustahab, not wajib. Sometimes wasiyyah can be makruh depending on the circumstances. Oh, I want my grave after my burial to be raised. Makruh, to raise the grave. Unless, of course, it's that of a Ma'soom or some great leaders. Sometimes wasiyyah is haram. Or I want my wealth to be spent for a particular illegal activity. I want to contribute to a, God forbid, casino. It's haram for the wasi, the trustee, to execute this particular will. But sometimes wasiyyah becomes wajib not for personal reasons, for political reasons, and that's the one that Imam Hussein alayhi salam does. So he tells Ibn Hanafiya that Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, هذا ما أوصى به الحسين ابن علي ابن أبي طالب إلى أخيه محمد المعروف ابن الحنفية. This is the wasiyyah that Hussein does to his brother, the one who is famously known as Ibn al-Hanafiyya. أن الحسين يشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. I testify with the totality of my being that there is no entity who deserves to be worshipped other than Allah. Don't you ever come later on and say, oh, Hussein had apostatized and become a kafir, God forbid, and therefore he was rebellious and therefore had to be arrested and executed. No, I'm a Muslim. وَأَنَّ مُحَمَّدًا عَبْدُهُ وَرَسُولُهُ. And that I testify that Muhammad is the highest and the closest servant of God and therefore the last prophet. جَاءَ بِالْحَقِّ مِنْ عِنْدِ الْحَقِّ. And he has come. The whole message is the truth, because it has come from the absolute source of truth. So where do I get the right to begin to tamper and to add and to subtract and to interpret and to distort the message of the Prophet? It's the whole truth. Anything I add to it now or subtract is going to make it partially false then. وَأَنَّ الْجَنَّةَ وَالنَّارَ حَقٌّ. And I testify that truly there is life after death, and there is heaven and there is hell. وَأَنَّ السَّاعَةَ آتِيَةٌ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهَا. And the hour will come of global universal death and new life after death. وَأَنَّ اللَّهَ يَبْعَثُ مَنْ فِي الْقُبُورِ. And then the final words. إِنِّي لَمْ أَخْرُجْ أَشِرًا وَلَا بَطِرًا وَلَا مُفْسِدًا وَلَا ظَالِمًا. I've not decided to make this move to oppose Yazid because I'm power-seeking, I'm greedy, I want money, I want fame, I want popularity. No, these are all worldly motives. إِنَّمَا خَرَجْتُ لِطَلَبِ الْإِصْلَاحِ فِي أُمَّةِ جَدِّي أُرِيدُ أَنْ آمُرَ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَأَنْهَى عَنِ الْمُنْكَرِ وَأَنْ أَسِيرَ بِسِيرَةِ جَدِّي وَأَبِي عَلِيِّ بْنِ أَبِي طَالِبٍ. My purpose is to reform this ummah because it has deviated away from the path of God and the Prophet. I want to promote whatever is good. There's evil everywhere. I want to fight against evil. Evil has entrenched itself right from the top to the bottom. And I want to restore the lifestyle, the traditions, the customs of my grandfather, the Prophet, and of my father, Ali. This is the purpose. So notice the foundation and the most important reason for this movement is the belief in God, and that as a godly person I am duty bound to establish a society being ruled by godly values. And therefore it's important for us to remind ourselves about the principle of Tawheed. You know, in the riwayat we are told the importance of Tawheed is that the most important statement and the most important testimony or declaration we can ever make is that of La ilaha illallah. Khayrul ibadah, the best of your ibadah. A'zamu thawaban, there's no more thawab for any other dhikr than the dhikr of La ilaha illallah. Thamanul jannah, the price for Jannah, La ilaha illallah. Or that famous hadith of Imam Rida alayhi salam, when he was summoned by Ma'mun, he comes all over from Medina, enters through Iraq, from Iraq enters through Iran, and goes right from the south of Iran right till the northeast to Khurasan. Before he reaches Marw, he passes by Nishabur. In Nishabur, that famous hadith, there's so many muhaddithin there, and they request for a hadith, which he reports from his father, grandfather, right till the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That God the Almighty has declared, La ilaha illallah hisni, faman dakhala hisni, amina min adhabi. That La ilaha illallah is that huge, strong fortress. Whosoever enters this fortress is protected. Not only from afflictions in the dunya, but also, especially in the akhirah. So this foundation of Tawheed is absolutely important. The hadith says that Zayd bin Arqam is a companion of the Prophet. He is quite important in that Imam Hussein alayhi salam mentions him in Karbala on the day of Ashura when he talks to the army. If you don't know my status, go and ask Zayd. Zayd has seen what the Prophet said about me and heard. And Zayd was also there in the court of Ibn Ziyad when the heads are brought. This Zayd bin Arqam reports from the Prophet ﷺ, and this hadith is there from the Imams of the Ahlul Bayt also, that the Prophet said, Man qala la ilaha illallah mukhlisan dakhala al-jannah. If you say la ilaha illallah with total ikhlas, that means what you say outwardly is what you believe inwardly, sincerely. There is reverence, there is respect, there is acceptance of God, there is submission to God. If you say it with ikhlas, you go to Jannah. The Imams were asked, what do you mean with ikhlas? And the Imams explained the sign of ikhlas is that whenever this person faces any temptation to sin, he refrains. He restrains himself because he believes there is no power worthy of obedience, whose command should be obeyed, not my nafs and desires, not the devil, not any outside force. The only power who deserves to be worshipped is God. That's ikhlas. That's la ilaha illallah that can protect us from the fire of hell, that can take us to Jannah. And that is the foundational reason for the movement of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. I'd like to pause here. We are living in an age where, unfortunately, our societies have become godless. The Western civilization, about 2 centuries ago, began to move away from the Christian church towards atheism. Of course, there are reasons for that. The church had become powerful, unfortunately, became corrupt also. The church was anti-intellectual, it had become anti-rational. The famous incident of Galileo, because he made a statement which opposed the apparent statement in the Bible, therefore he was persecuted. So there are several reasons why there was resentment against the church. In the process of opposing the church and dethroning the church from its supreme power in Europe, the ideas of atheism were promoted. And gradually over 100, 200 years, the 20th century, atheism became supreme. Christianity began to withdraw from society. So it's famously known there are countries in Europe which are in a post-Christian phase now. And they said science can explain everything now. Our understanding of the universe through the prism of empirical science, observation, collection of data, analysis, it can explain everything of the reality around us. And we don't need God to explain to us the universe. But the interesting thing is that atheism triumphed in the 20th century, but towards the end of the 20th century, beginning of the 21st century, the very science that they say gives proof against God, now they realize that no, science is raising questions that they can't answer without God. So, back in the 60s, there was this famous magazine, Time magazine. They had a cover page, "Is God dead?" God is not relevant anymore in society, they said. This was back in the 60s. There was an astronomer, Carl Sagan, and he said that life can be explained by science. Well, what is the Earth? The Earth is just nothing unusual, an ordinary planet, an average, unassuming rock that's just spinning mindlessly around an unremarkable star, the Sun. There are many of such stars. In a run-of-the-mill galaxy, the Milky Way galaxy. There's so many galaxies out there. So the life on our planet Earth, therefore, is not extraordinary and exceptional. And therefore, creatures of all kinds, undoubtedly, look at the confidence, undoubtedly creatures of all kinds, they abound in countless locations, in trillions and billions of stars out there. So they started giving estimates. Oh, there must be about 10 trillion civilizations like ours, or even higher out there. We need to look for them. In fact, Sagan proudly announced that there must be 1 million of such stars and planets in our own Milky Way galaxy. And all we need to do is just look for 2 criteria. You just need the right type of star, like the Sun. Not too big, not too small. And you need the right type of distance from this star for the planet to be able to harbor life. Not too far away, Pluto too cold. Not too close to the Sun, Mercury burning hot. No, just the right distance, like the Earth. You get plenty of these planets with life. That's all. This was in the 60s. So they set up a program known as SETI, the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence. And they were very optimistic. Ambitious project. Vast network of radio telescopes looking for any signals of intelligent life from outside. So years passed, in fact decades passed, and they came up with interesting results. So there was this planet Bupkis and Nada and Zilch. You heard about these planets? Anyone?
Zero.
Sorry?
Zero means zero. Nothing.
Yes, yes. They came up with Bupkis. Bupkis means nothing. Nada means 0, 0, 0, 0. Zilch. That's what they came up with. What they did come up also with was, oh my God, for life, you don't need 2 factors the way Sagan was predicting. You need 10 factors. Over time they said, no, you need about 20 factors for life to develop. And then they said, no, you need about 50 factors for life to develop. And then they said, no, currently the latest is almost about 200 factors that must be there for life to develop. One little example. Jupiter. Jupiter is necessary for life on the Earth. A couple of weeks ago, NASA announced that there was an asteroid heading towards the Earth, but didn't hit the Earth. You need a heavyweight guard for you sitting out there to deflect with its massive gravity any rock, could be a few kilometers wide rock. Or their prediction is, or their speculation is, the dinosaurs were wiped out because one of these several kilometers huge rock hit the earth millions of years ago and created massive devastation that these gigantic creatures were wiped out. Potentially an asteroid can destroy life on the earth. Yeah, but science is advanced to the level where we can protect ourselves. We have the technology to be able to search and scan and identify and find out the trajectory, and if we know it's going to reach the earth, we're going to take necessary steps to protect ourselves. So for example, 2029, April, doomsday, they're predicting. Because there's an asteroid which is large enough to fill a baseball field just like an egg in a cup. And this asteroid is going to fly by so close to the Earth that it can dip below the altitude of satellites, communication satellites. That's how close it can come to the Earth. So, my God, that's too close. So this astronomer says, we're not going to name this asteroid Bambi. No, we're going to name this asteroid Apophis. Apophis is the Egyptian god of death and destruction. Apophis trajectory is that when it comes close to the Earth, because it's still a small rock compared to the Earth, the gravity of the Earth will affect this closely flying by asteroid to take a swirl around. In 2029 it won't affect us, but because of the Earth's gravity, in 7 years it's going to return back now. This time in 2036 will be the wham. And it's going to be able to, and it's estimated to hit the Earth somewhere in the Pacific between California and Hawaii. And the tsunami that will be created will wipe out the entire west coast of North America. Unless, of course, we can deflect. So they're confident that we can protect ourselves. But that's not, strictly speaking, true. The number of asteroids is just too many. Scientists haven't even managed to map even 10% of the total number of asteroids which are out there. And asteroids are of two types, big size ones and small size ones. And the number of the big sized ones that could potentially impact the Earth have not yet been identified, all of them. So now we have a problem. We have huge sized rocks flying all over, and we don't even know the speed at which they're moving, the direction in which they're moving, and the trajectory. Many a times they say, these asteroids come and pass by very close, and we come to know about them after the event is going to pass by. In the Quran, there's an interesting ayah in Surah Mulk and in Surah A'raf. Allah says, أَمِنْتُم مَّن فِي السَّمَاءِ أَن يُرْسِلَ عَلَيْكُمْ حَاصِبًا. Are you safe enough and secure enough to think that God cannot send a stone from the sky in your direction? Potentially, if He wants, He can destroy. The same thing also appears in Surah A'raf. Incidentally, not only the sky has been mentioned, but even the earth. The earth has been mentioned as a place where human beings can face destruction. أَأَمِنْتُم مَّن فِي السَّمَاءِ أَن يَخْسِفَ بِكُمُ الْأَرْضُ فَإِذَا هِيَ تَبُورُ. Same surah, ayah number 16. That the earth can open up and swallow you. We just today, an interesting news report, the Journal of Proceedings of the National Academy of Science. They say that in more than 400 US cities, which is home to almost about 20 million people, the land is under threat from higher sea levels if action is not taken because of the climatic changes and because of the burning of fossil fuels. And he says, unfortunately, we've reached a point of no return. The genie is out of the bottle. We can't put it back into the bottle. We can't control. We've reached a point of no return. These cities are going. The question is, can we save other cities? And one of those cities is Miami, Florida. The problem with Miami, he says, is, all right, so for those cities which are potentially under the danger of drowning, we can build up defenses, like in New Orleans, the levees. But Miami, you can't help, even with defense systems, because the problem is what is underground. He says it's just like, it's sitting on a porous limestone bedrock, like a Swiss cheese, full of holes. So you're going to be attacked from above, you're going to be attacked from below. Miami is glowing. No way to save it. The point I'm trying to make is this. The Western civilization, for whatever reasons, moved away from God. It claims science can explain everything. But now they're facing questions to which science itself cannot give the answer. In fact, without invoking the presence of an intelligent, supreme power who can explain life, in fact, beyond life, who can explain the universe. The universe itself has got many questions science cannot answer. So the belief in God becomes the foundational stone of the movement of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, especially when you realize that he was facing a group of people who became leaders who pretended for outward reasons to say they believed in God. But inwardly they did not accept the authority of God because they said, we're the authority. Even if we decide against what the Quran says or what the Prophet says, and even if we have to disrespect in the process the progeny of the Prophet, they were as good as non-believers. And therefore, it's important for us, if we are to bond with the tragedy of Karbala and learn lessons from it, to remind ourselves about the primary role that the belief in God plays in this whole episode. This dua that we recited tonight, the dua of Khomeini. Look at the way Imam alayhi salam teaches us to bond to God. And obviously, if Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib used to recite this dua, Imam Hussein alayhi salam, as witnessed in the dua of Arafah, also would have been reciting this dua. Look at the peak message of the dua, Khomeini. أسألك يا ربي يا ربي يا رب أسألك بحقك وقدسك وأعظم صفاتك وأسمائك. Oh Lord, I'm sinful, I'm asking for forgiveness on this night. But having purified myself, now I ask you, by your glory, by your sanctity, by your divinity, by the highest and the best of your names. Whatever I'm going to ask for is the best therefore. What do I ask, oh Lord? أن تجعل أوقاتي من الليل والنهار بذكرك معمورا. I want to be constantly in your remembrance, day and night. وبخدمتك موصولة. And it should be connected, continuous serving and service to you. وأعمالي عندك مقبولة. And it should be with piety, therefore it should be acceptable and rewarded. حتى تكون أعمالي وأورادي كلها وردا واحدا وحالي في خدمتك سرمدا. such that I am constantly, every step that I take, wakefulness or sleep, eating or walking or meeting or doing any activity, everything is to serve you and to achieve your pleasure. A man with this attitude can never ever accept يزيد شارب الخمر فاسق فاجر معلن بالفسق, that he's openly and heedlessly and defiantly opposing you and then expecting us to surrender to him. A man with this attitude can never ever bow down before evil. And therefore, we find in these last moments, Imam alayhi salam, as he is leaving Medina, he tells Muhammad ibn Hanafiya that this is my wasiyyah, فَمَنْ قَبِلَنِي بِقَبُولِ الْحَقِّ فَاللَّهُ أَوْلَى بِالْحَقِّ. Whosoever accepts this guidance and this message of mine, may Allah reward him. وَمَنْ رَدَّ عَلَيَّ هَذَا. But if you refuse to join me in my opposition to evil, أصبر حتى يقضي الله بيني وبين القوم بالحق وهو خير الحاكمين. Just like the Prophet and just like the past prophets, as mentioned for example in Surah Yunus, that the past prophets also say the same to those who oppose the message, that we will not surrender to your pressure. And God is the best of the judges, and He will definitely decide based on His wisdom and on His justice who is right and who deserves to be rewarded. Muhammad ibn Hanafiya is different from Umar ibn Ali ibn Abi Talib. He's a wise man. Look at the advice he gives to Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Muhammad says that, Ya akhi, anta ahabbu al-khalqi ilayya wa a'azzuhum alayya. My dear brother, I believe you are the closest to me. I love you dearly. And therefore, I wish nothing but good for you. I heard you made your decision to oppose. I feel I need to advise you. And my advice is, I accept your authority, لأن الله قد شرفك علي وجعلك من سادات أهل الجنة. You are Sayyid Shabab Ahl al-Jannah. I respect you and I will obey you. But I need to advise you, your decision doesn't seem to be right. I advise you, تخرج إلى Mecca. You want to leave Medina, good. But go to Mecca. Mecca is the safest place right now, because it's a sanctuary which Allah has created. Because it is a haram, مَنْ دَخَلَهُ كَانَ آمِنًا. In haram, you're not allowed to hunt an animal of prey. You're not allowed to hunt even a bird. You're not even allowed to kill an insect in the state of ihram. You're not allowed to arrest a criminal if he has committed a crime outside the haram. You're totally safe inside the haram, according to the laws of the Sharia of the Prophet ﷺ. That's the best place you should go to. But if, whatever reason, you find insecurity there, then why don't you go to Yemen? Yemen is the place where our father's followers are there, because the Prophet ﷺ sent Ali alayhi salam just before Hajjatul Bida' to Yemen. Because hum ar'afu nasi, ansaru jaddika wa abik, they are the ansar of your grandfather, of your father. Malik Ashtar, Nakha'i, from Yemen. Kumayl ibn Ziyad, Nakha'i, Yemen. Uwais Qarani, Yemen. Yemen has a history of good companions of the Prophet and of Imam Ali alayhi salam. وَهُمْ أَرْأَفُ النَّاسِ. Compared to other parts of Arabia, they are gentler people. وَأَرَقُّهُمْ قُلُوبًا وَأَوْسَعُ النَّاسِ بِلَادًا. And it's a wide land. You can settle anywhere in Yemen. However, if for whatever reason Yemen also doesn't accept you, then my third advice is, no, I think you should just travel in the desert. Don't waste time in any city. Notice he doesn't advise him to go to Kufa or Basra or Sham, definitely. He says, then you wait. May Allah decide what's the best. Notice Muhammad ibn Hanafiya is not advocating that you should confront, and in the confrontation you will die. He says, no, try to escape as much as you can. Go away, out in the deserts. They can't catch you. Imam alayhi salam thanks him for this brotherly advice. But he says, let me tell you, يا أخي والله لو لم يكن ملجأ ولا مأوى لما بايعت يزيد بن معاوية. Let me tell you this much. Even if all the cities you're suggesting, I go there and they don't accept me, and even if the deserts they catch me and they confront me and they force me to do bay'ah, I will never ever bow down. So Umar ibn Ali ibn Abi Talib, different view. Ibn Hanafiya, yet a different view. Imam Hussein alayhi salam sees the whole political situation from a totally different perspective. But I'm leaving, and I'm leaving this wasiyah behind with you, and I'm asking you for one thing. You stay back in Medina. You obviously don't want to join me. I'm leaving with my brothers, and I'm leaving with my nephews, and I'm leaving with my family. And there are some Shia who are following me. We're going together as a group. But I request you for one thing. You stay back in Medina and you be my spy. You inform me, keep me informed in Mecca and onwards what's happening back here at home. Finally, before he leaves Medina, the riwayah says not only the grave of the Prophet, Imam alayhi salam also visits the grave of his holy mother, also the grave of his holy brother Imam Hassan alayhi salam. And he also visits one lady, his grandmother, the holy lady Salama. Amongst the wives of the Prophet, there were some who were good, there were some, unfortunately, who have been condemned in the Quran. Salama is different. Salama, she's supposed to be one of the best of the wives after the holy lady Khadija. Salama, she defends the Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam at the time of Saqifa. The Ahlul Bayt respected her. The Holy Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam respected her. The Hadith al-Kisa, according to one Hadith, the ayah was revealed in her chamber. She was standing at the door and she saw the Prophet and the Holy Lady Fatima and Hassan and Hussein and Ali alayhi salam all come together under the cloak. And she says, Ya Rasulullah, can I also join you under the cloak? And the Prophet says, no, you stay there, innaki ala khair. No, you're a good woman, but you don't belong here, under the cloak. So the Prophet also appreciates and acknowledges her status. And therefore, she becomes a repository of some secrets. Not all wives can be given secrets and be trusted with it. Surah Tahrim, chapter 66, ayah number 3 and 4 tells us about two wives of the Prophet who betrayed secrets given to them. They failed the test. So the surah says that وَإِذْ أَسَرَّ النَّبِيُّ إِلَى بَعْضِ أَزْوَاجِهِ. And remember the time when the Prophet gave a little a secret to some of his wives, حَدِيثًا فَلَمَّا نَبَّأَتْ بِهِ. And it was a secret, you keep it with you. She went and told it to another wife. وَأَظْهَرَهُ اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ. And God discloses that this secret has been betrayed by this particular wife. عَرَفَ بَعْضَهُ وَأَعْرَضَ عَنْ بَعْضٍ. The Prophet summons her and tells her some of the things that she's already disclosed, and some of the things the Prophet doesn't tell her. فَلَمَّا نَبَّأَهَا بِهِ قَالَتْ مَنْ أَنْبَأَكَ هَذَا. She's surprised. Who told you that I told her? And the Prophet says, قَالَ نَبَّأَنِيَ الْعَلِيمُ الْخَبِيرُ. The all-knowing, the all-aware. He's the one who has informed me, in my house there is a traitor. I can't trust you. How dare you disobey me? You went and disclosed a secret that was supposed to be for you. Because of some higher purpose and wisdom, I didn't want to create conflicts and problems in my household. I asked you not to speak out. You didn't listen to me, did you? The next ayah says, no, you've committed a big sin. In tatuba ilallah, you must repent. فَقَدْ صَغَتْ قُلُوبُكُمَا, your hearts have become corrupted. You're deviated from the truth. You have no respect for the authority of the Prophet. You consider him as an ordinary man? Who told you? That's the attitude you have about the Prophet? You haven't understood the status of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And listen, we're not going to tolerate, God now speaks. We are not going to tolerate in the household of a prophet that there be a traitor. Yes, he has to deal with the munafiqs outside, but if they penetrate to right inside his household, no, we won't allow that. وَإِن تَظَاهَرَا, if both of you gang up together against our prophet, فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ هُوَ مَوْلَاهُ وَجِبْرِيلُ وَصَالِحُ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ وَالْمَلَائِكَةُ بَعْدَ ذَلِكَ الظَّهِيرُ. Then let us tell you, you support each other, we are going to support the prophet. God is going to support the prophet. All the angels are going to support the Prophet. The chief of all the angels, Jibreel, is going to support the Prophet. And the good and the righteous and the pious believers are going to support the Prophet. Oh my God. The whole of the universe is ganging up on God's side against two women. Why? Unless these two women potentially can subvert and divert and distort God's plan for the guidance of the Ummah. The whole of the angelic world will be invoked to come against you. And no, we're not going to stop there. Ayah number 5 says, عَسَى رَبُّهُ إِن طَلَّقَكُنَّ أَنْ يُبْدِلَهُ أَزْوَاجًا خَيْرًا مِنْكُنَّ. God may instruct His Prophet to divorce you. And no, God will not allow the Prophet to stay without extra wives. He's going to substitute you with better wives. And then 6 qualities are mentioned of those better wives. Question, who are these 2 wives? The Quran has kept silent, and therefore allow me also to keep silent. Who are these 2 women? The point is this: why, amongst all the women who are alive, Imam Hussein alayhi salam comes and visits Salama, the one woman he could trust. The riwayah about Salama says that the Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam would leave their most valuable items with Salama. So when the Prophet dies, or when Imam Ali alayhi salam is departing from Medina to go to Kufa, he deposits the heritage that he has received from the Prophet with Salama. Imam Ali doesn't come back to Medina from Kufa. He's buried in Najaf. Imam Hassan, when he comes back, Salama hands over that heritage. After that, it was handed over to Imam Hussein alayhi salam. After that, when now Imam Hussein alayhi salam is leaving Medina, he returns back the heritage of the Prophet with Salama. She understands clearly what's happening. And she tells Imam Hussein alayhi salam, my dear son, don't go to Iraq. Because I heard the Prophet tell me, this is a secret now. Nobody else knows. The Prophet told me on one day, يُقْتَلْ وَلَدِيَ الْحُسَيْنِ بِأَرْضِ الْعِرَاقِ فِي أَرْضٍ يُقَالُ لَهَا كَرْبَلَاء. This son of mine will be killed one day in future, in a land which is known as Iraq. Iraq, you must remember, was not there in the time of the Prophet ﷺ. It is formed in the time of the second Khalifa Kufa. Karbala wasn't there. It was just a desert. This is a prediction about a future settlement. There's a land known as Iraq. In that there is a place known as Karbala. That's where my son will be killed. So Imam Hussein alayhi salam tells her, Ya Ummah, Ana wallahi a'lamu dhalik. My dear grandmother, I know what the Prophet has told you. But anni maqtul la mahala. And let me tell you, grandmother, even if I don't go to Iraq, here in Medina they will kill me. That's the situation of the Ummah. But let me tell you, my dear grandmother, there's a bigger plan. That's God's plan, that I should make this movement. قد شاء الله عز وجل أن يراني مقتولا مذبوحا ظلما وعدوانا. It is the plan of God that I should make this uprising, that I should confront evil, that I should be killed, that I should be butchered mercilessly, aggressively, with the most ruthless of these brutes. That is God's plan. But don't you worry, grandmother. This message of the Holy Prophet that you know, and the secrets that you know, and unfortunately is being ignored, and is being distorted, and is being misinterpreted, this true message, my grandmother, will survive. And you know why? I'm taking my family with me. قد شاء أن يرى حرمي ورهطي ونسائي مشردين. I will take my family, my children, my daughters, my wives, and they will be captured, and they will be tortured, and they will be paraded in different cities. But during that process, they will defend me. They will propagate the truth about this message. وَأَطْفَالِي مَذْبُوحِينَ مَأْسُورِينَ مُقَيَّدِينَ. And also, you will find that my children will be taken as captives and as prisoners. But all of this as a necessary sacrifice to defend the younger thiql, defending the greater thiql, the Quran.